Well, hello everyone. I'm located here in the Sperrins at a location near Davor Forest, not far from Loch Fay. I'm doing a road trip today trying to suss out good vantage points to the west-southwest for mid-October for Comet Tsuchinshan-ATLAS. So I've been spending the day out trying to find locations. It's actually quite difficult. It's not an issue getting a view to the southwest, just a problem trying to get some foreground interest. We've pretty dark skies here, which is good. You can see the tops of the hills, which is fine. There's some nice trees around, but I'm looking for something very distinctive. So we're going to spend the next few days doing that. But anyway, the countryside around here is absolutely beautiful, absolutely fantastic, and it'd be amazing just to see any comet from a dark location like this. But anyway, I wanted to do an update on that comet. You probably, if you're watching this, you already know about it. You've heard about it. This has been in the pipeline for a long time. This comet was discovered in 2023 January by the Purple Mountain Observatory, hence Tsuchinshan in China, and Atlas in South Africa. And both these facilities, these professional telescopes, are search telescopes. What they do is they automatically search the night sky every single night, looking for Earth-threatening asteroids that could impact the Earth sometime in the future, which is a very serious threat. But sometimes these surveys pick up distant other objects too, like comets, and this one was discovered at around 18th magnitude or so. At the start it looked like an asteroid, but then the Atlas and the ZTF telescopes confirmed it later as a comet. And then the orbit was calculated, and very quickly they realised that this comet's going to come quite close to the Sun and make a pass by the Earth in the same process, and it looked like it's going to become a bright object. I've been tracking every detail about this comet since its discovery last year and obsessing about it, because anyone who knows me knows I'm obsessed with comets. In fact, it was a comet that got me interested in the night sky and anything to do with nature entirely. And that comet in 1997 was Hale-Bopp, when a friend and I, Brent and Bradley, we were out early before dawn one morning in a place called Slackneil outside Mahara, and we were doing a catch-up, and the sky was fantastic, absolutely pitch black, top quality skies back then, a crisp frosty night. It was before dawn, and we got out of our car, place covered in frost, crisp, fresh, perfect skies, and we just turned around, looked to the east, and there was this, what I call an apparition, a ghostly apparition, perched above the dark outline of the trees to the east, and it looked like something that shouldn't have been there. It was absolutely shocking. It looked like this big fuzzy, filmy phantom thing, and a searchlight beam extending upward from it. For a moment I thought it was probably some kind of searchlight from a farmer or something mounted on a pole, but there was no pole. It was sitting in the sky. Brendan and I were just blown away by the spectacle. It was just unbelievable. It looked so alien, like it shouldn't have been there. It was kind of eerie looking, but fantastic, beautiful and majestic at the same time, mysterious. Now we realised very soon after that was actually Comet Hale-Bopp, the great comet in 1997, which was all over the news at the time. But that was my first sighting of anything skywise, and my first sighting of a comet, and it stayed with me. It changed, literally altered the course of my life that night. I went off a different tangent, got interested in the night sky, I became obsessed with comets, and I've been observing every comet which comes my way within my telescopes ever since. And I started searching for comets in the year 2000, actually trying to discover one on my own, which is nearly an impossible task nowadays, but I did do that, and occasionally do the odd time, and observed probably 94, 95 comets telescopically since. So anyway, I love comets, and especially if there's a prospect of a bright one, I get very excited. Now this one is very promising. Experts thought it was going to fall apart long before it even reached perihelion, its closest point to the Sun, but it didn't fall apart. In fact, it took everyone by surprise. Being a long period comet, its first time visit into the inner solar system. So this is literally from the Oort cloud. It's been sitting in deep freeze, halfway to the next star, and in the depository of icy bodies that lurks around the outer part of the solar system called the Oort cloud. And there, it formed before any of the planets formed. So it was about 4.5 billion years old. This is a pristine body that's been frozen near absolute zero, sitting in space halfway to the nearest star. Something nudged it, maybe the passing of a distant star or some kind of molecular cloud in the Milky Way galaxy, something like that, nudged it, and it began its long journey into the inner solar system. It's just been travelling for a long time until it was discovered, and now it's making its way in close to us. It passed perihelion on the 27th of September and reached a magnitude of about 2.5. It became naked eye visibility from the southern hemisphere, and observers there, and it slightly latitude slightly above the equator, getting great images of it over the last week. With a very nice dust tail. I'm very envious of those images because I think they're absolutely beautiful. Some real stunners. If you go onto spaceweather.com, look at some of the galleries on there. Absolutely gorgeous images. But anyway, this comet has a tail now, visually 15 to 20 degrees long with the naked eye, and photographically it's starting to get longer. It's now diving into the solar glare in the southern hemisphere. They're going to lose it from view soon, and we're going to not see it for a few days. And then it's going to re-emerge beside the sun around about September 7th, 8th, 9th onwards, passing over the west side of the sun to the right hand side, very, very close to our star. Not physically close, because it's a conjunction, it's just passing through the solar glare, but from our line of sight it's going to be pretty close. So it'll be difficult to see. If forward scattering takes place, and this is when the comet is between the Earth and the sun is sort of like sunlight shining through these dust particles in the comet, it actually enhances its overall brightness. So the sunlight reflecting and scattering through the tail and the coma will enhance the magnitude of the comet. Now the comet itself is not intrinsically getting brighter like it would as it gets towards the sun. It's actually past this point of the sun and gradually starting to fade. But because this forward scattering effect is taking place, it's actually kind of a line of sight optical effect. It'll greatly enhance it. And some experts think it'll go into the negative magnitudes, perhaps -3, -4 or more, some of the more optimistic predictions. If it does reach -4-ish, then it could be as bright as planet Venus, which means experienced observers who know what they're doing and not accidentally looking at the sun may actually catch it in broad daylight beside the sun through telescopes, binoculars and camera lenses. After that, if that magnitude range -3 or 4 is reached, then the comet will it's actually traveling between 70 and 80 kilometers per second. It'll go past the sun, start to appear north of the sun, and appear in the northern hemisphere evening sky immediately after sunset. And each night afterwards, it'll start moving to the upper left or northeast, gradually getting away from the solar glare into the twilight and getting better placed. When it does so, the comet hopefully could be somewhere maybe in the -1 range, maybe 0 magnitude, something like that. And then as it goes away, it'll gradually fade night after night into 2nd magnitude, 3rd magnitude as it gets better placed in the sky. But as it does so, it'll cross the orbital plane. The Earth will pass through the comet's orbital plane, meaning that the dust tail, if you imagine this is the head of the comet in the southern hemisphere and the tail's going up this way, the tail points away from the sun, but as it emerges from the sun through our line of sight, the dust tail is going to point down towards the sun, along with the conventional dust tail. It goes backwards. So this is called an anti-tail or an anti-tail spike. It points towards the sun. Some predictions show a tail somewhere in the order of 5, 10, even 15 degrees or more on camera, along with the conventional tail. And as this moves away, this configuration, this geometry will change, and eventually the anti-tail will fade and change position angle, and then you get your conventional dust tail and ion tail. It's through this stage we could have a very photogenic comet with a bit of luck. And initially, the main problem is when it appears in the deep twilight, it'll be very low in the southwest evening sky. However, it will be bathed in that twilight, so some of that tail length will be washed out to the eye, so it's hard to know how much we'll see visually yet. We might see some of it, and certainly we will through telescopes. But on cameras, which are a lot more sensitive, we may pick up slightly longer tails, so that's going to be very interesting. But as it climbs higher away, the comet, as it fades, will get better placed. The twilight background gets slightly darker, and the comet will be a lot more impressive even as it's fading. The only negative is the full moon on the 17th of September, which will wash out some of the details. However, the comet is still low in twilight, so it's hard to know just how much of an effect that'll have. But even so, we'll be observing it, and once we get to the stage 2 days after full moon, which is around the 19th onwards, the moon starts to rise a little bit later each night, and eventually you get a dark window in the evening sky from the 19th, 20th onwards, maybe half an hour, and that increases every single evening. You get this narrow dark window before moonrise, and that's the comet could be fainter at that stage, but the tail should be a lot more obvious, and that's when I think a lot of photographers are going to get some great images of it. So I'm very excited about this as a comet lover. Only problem is, my greatest concern is the weather. So far the Met Office has shown we've had a lot of actually clear days and nights recently, nothing to complain about, but the future is looking very cloudy. I'm deeply concerned about that. If I don't get to see this comet at its best because of clouds in this country, excuse me, I think I'll lose the plot, honestly. But fingers crossed, all goes well. We'll get some clear breaks between the clouds and the fronts, and we'll get to see this comet over the course of its apparition from maybe the 11th, 12th of October right through to the 20th onwards. If I can get multiple nights at it, that would be awesome. So I'm very, very excited. This is the kind of stuff I dream about. I love bright comets, naked eye comets. They don't come along too often, especially in the northern hemisphere. So this is literally a once in a lifetime opportunity. And furthermore, this comet is a long period comet, and it has an orbital period of 80,000 years. So it'll not be back again for another 80,000 years. So literally once in a lifetime opportunity. And some experts reckon because of perturbations, if I said that right, gravitational effects from passing the sun and the earth, the comet may actually have its orbit altered, and it may not even come back at all in 80,000 years. It may get ejected back into the Oort cloud. But either way, the images are spectacular online. Some of the reports I'm seeing from the southern hemisphere now are getting quite exciting. The really experienced comet observers are saying they're seeing quite a bit of naked eye tail now. It looks like a searchlight beam rising in the east before the head even appears, or the coma. So I'm literally thinking about this every day and night. I'm sitting up late at night researching, studying images, researching every bit of data I can get, studying observations, and chatting with observers below the equator online about what they're seeing, trying to get a picture and understanding of what's going on. So this comet didn't fall apart, and it doesn't look like it's going to. It seems substantial enough. Measurements now indicate it's somewhere in the order of 2.3 kilometers in diameter, which is quite large. It's your typical average comet size, so it's a good healthy comet. It seems to be performing very well and quite close to the light curve, slightly below it, but close enough. So it all depends on this forward scattering, so there's no promises. If forward scattering doesn't enhance this brightness in the coming week, it may not be that bright in mid-October. It might be slightly disappointing, but still be an interesting object. But if it gets enhanced, then it's going to be good. So if anybody out there is interested in astronomy, studying the night sky, or you're into comets, then now's the time to be interested and excited. Get your telescopes ready, your cameras ready, or if you have a simple pair of binoculars is probably the best tool you could have in your arsenal. A pair of 10 by 50 binoculars is the best all-rounder, but if you have any binoculars at all, use them. It's great because it's easy to carry, it's portable, the magnification is not too high, just enough to see a little bit of detail, and the field of view is wide enough we can take in a good portion of the tail and some of the foreground. So I'm hoping over this period I really do get to see this comet, and I get to photograph it over some nice foreground, or just get it in a nice dark sky somewhere. So, just get images I'm happy with, and hopefully maybe a time lapse as well. I'm sure I've been meeting up with a few friends over the course of the next couple of weeks to shoot this at different locations. So a busy time ahead, very exciting. Also, so that's 2003 A3 Tsuchinshan-ATLAS. A good performer already. And also I'm meeting a TV crew. I'm actually taking part in a TV show is going to be aired in January 2025. Called Chronicles of the Sperrins, and the idea was, I'm not the only one, and there are people in it too, there's different stories going on, but I'm part of the story. The crew are following me around throughout all 4 seasons of the year to document me doing what I do, but I have to get a different sky phenomena each month at a different part of the Sperrins. We've already done, during springtime, we've done the epic G5 Aurora on May 10th. Which is going to be the first subject feature. We got amazing luck with that one. So hopefully some of my time lapse will appear on it. You get to see the motion and the colours and stuff. That was an amazing night. So the crew were there. That was awesome. When we had another event. We done the Noctilus and Cloud display, the big NLC display during July, which is I ranked as one of the best NLC displays I've ever seen in my life. Another lucky one, almost in par with the 2009 display. They're almost neck and neck. Stunning NLCs, not just caused by meteoritic material and comet dust, it's all connected, but also enhanced by the Tunguska eruption. It took place a few years ago, the undersea volcanic eruption. So normally we shouldn't be seeing bright NLCs during solar maximum. The NLCs tend to be weaker, smaller, less frequent, less impressive. This display was right up there with the best I've ever seen. Beautiful colours, beautiful structure, very bright, type 5 brightness, casting shadows on the ground. Just wow, beautiful. check it out on my YouTube channel. I have drone footage and time lapse of it on there. If you scroll back through the sections there, you'll find it. But anyway, we got that, and so I'm really chuffed with that. That's two great events. We got the Aurora, we got the NLCs, and I need something else special, and that other special thing is a comet. I did say to the producer that I would love to get this comet featured, because comets are the most important thing, night sky phenomena thing to me in my life. They're just what I love, you know, my dream about, my passion. If it worked out, I would love to get this comet featured, because I think that would be very fitting for me in a personal way. And they totally agreed. They're excited about it, and I tried to talk them out of it a little bit, because I thought if it's a disappointment, it ends up being faint and not impressive, then maybe we'll just do something else. And the producer's like, no. Veronica's like, no, we're going to cover this no matter what happens, because it's a good story. And I look at it from her perspective, she's absolutely right. It is a good story, and it's a personal story. So that's the next event. They could be meeting me maybe sometime in the next 2 weeks. We have to get a clear night and see how this thing performs, and they'll do a bit of filming, and hopefully get some footage or still images to use for the show. So hopefully, better luck, that'll be featured. And then the next thing to be featured in the winter time is a winter day, me out chasing maybe in the snow, getting some drone footage. There's snow in the Sperrins here, but just doing my thing, and that'll be the final phenomena. Four things for 4 seasons, and I'll be appearing on TV next year and on the iPlayer. So I'll let you know closer to the time when that appears. So that's going on too in the background. So I'm quite excited about that. I just done a talk in Belfast for the National Trust there as well last week, and I was telling everyone about this comet approach, and everyone was quite excited about it. So there's quite a bit of anticipation as well. And I'll be back doing another talk on the 1st of November up in Divis in Belfast. I'll be doing an overview on Tsuchinshan-ATLAS, and if it performs, I'll show some images and some of the highlights to anyone who comes along to the talk to show what happens. So it should be quite interesting. I'll also be talking about meteors and fireballs, which are all connected with comets. And finally, we have another comet, possibly. This is a big question mark on this. We're living in exciting times, but we have another comet coming here that, sorry, somebody just drove past, wondering who I'm talking to. We have another comet that was just discovered, literally on September 27th, the perihelion date of Tsuchinshan-ATLAS. Another comet was discovered by the Atlas Survey Telescope, quite close to the Sun. This telescope is doing a great job. It's discovered this comet. It's called 2024 S1 Atlas now. A few observations later, they managed to get a preliminary orbit. Actually, the orbit's quite well refined now, and they realised this is a sun-grazing comet. This is a member of the Kreutz family of sun grazers. Now, the Kreutz family of sun grazers are very interesting. If you look at SOHO, the Glasgow cameras on the SOHO spacecraft to observe the solar corona during the day on spaceweather.com, you'll see sometimes these faint comets that come in and burn up on the sun. These are Kreutz sun grazers, or other families of sun grazers too, but you'll see these sun grazers coming in. They're tiny comets that come in and they burn up in the sun's corona. They're usually quite small, and you can't see them from the ground because they're too faint, but occasionally you get a large fragment coming in, and these are a different entity entirely. And when these larger fragments come in, if it's slightly better prospect of surviving their encounter with the sun. Now, these things get very close to the sun, very, very close. You can imagine the extreme temperatures a comet body would be experiencing this close to the sun, not to mention the gravitational forces on such a fragile body, because comets are fragile. They're porous, icy, rocky bodies that are so light, they're actually lighter than the mass of water. So it's quite interesting, but I won't get into all that. But this comet's going to come so close to the sun that it may, if it survives, that's the big question. That's why I did this question mark symbol. There's a possibility it might completely disintegrate. There's a very high chance that'll happen, actually, because these things are fragile and you just don't know. And, you know, we're talking a lot of forces here in the comet. But if it survives, that's a big if it survives, it'll re-emerge in the morning sky, and it may become a bright sun grazer, a great comet, as they say in the history books, a great comet. And the last great sun grazing comet there was in the southern hemisphere in 2011, called Comet Lovejoy. The comet actually broke apart after perihelion and started to fade, but the tail was sitting straight up like a searchlight beam, and it was even photographed by the astronauts in the space station. You see it all on YouTube, the images and video footage of it there. It was a beautiful naked eye comet, the searchlight beam going right up, maybe I think 30 plus degree tail. Before that, the brightest sun grazer in modern times this century was Akiyoseki in 1965. Now, that was the great sun grazer. That thing went to -10, or some reports even go to minus 15 or more magnitude in daylight. Visible broad daylight. You put your hand up, block the sun there, walls with a tail in broad daylight. It was better placed for the southern hemisphere after perihelion. It had a gorgeous gas or dust tail too. It's just a magnificent object. So that's what these sun grazers are capable of. Now they reckon this nucleus of this sun grazer, the S1 Atlas, isn't as large as a Kiyosaki, but it could be somewhere in the ballpark of Lovejoy. They don't know for sure, but either way, if it survives, it might become, briefly for a few mornings, it might become a great comet with a big searchlight beam tail. So that's very exciting. But more on that later on. But the southern hemisphere yet again is favoured for that. They always are for these sun grazing comets. So it's disappointing, but from what I'm understanding so far online studying it, it seems the northern hemisphere also have a chance after perihelion for a few days, late end of October, Halloween period into the first few days of November, in the morning sky right before sunrise. I mean, right on the horizon. This is going to be low again, but if it develops a big tail, there's a chance someone might see it. So it's very exciting. So in a nutshell, we have 2 possible naked eye comets in October. Two of them might be visible in daylight to some degree, and one of them might be a great comet. We don't know about Tsuchinshan-ATLAS, but it's a bit of a stretch, but you never know. So very, very exciting. Not to mention we have the solar activity ramping up too. We got a lot of sunspots in the sun. We got CMEs firing off, so there might be an increase in aurora activity. So overall, we're living in a very exciting period from October into November. We have the comets, we have aurora potential, and we also have an increase in meteor shower activity as well. We have the Taurids, the Leonids, and then into December, the Geminids. So there's a lot going on. It's a very good time of year. So fingers crossed. Sorry for talking for so long, but I'm really excited for this comet. Come on, nature, please bring us clear skies and put on a show for us, and hopefully we'll get the images we want and all goes well. But thank you for listening to me. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you enjoy this night sky, whatever it is you're interested in, and keep looking up. I'll update closer to the time. Cheers.